Welcome back to the podcast, ladies and gentlemen. I hope you are having a beautiful day today. And if no one's told you today, you look great. You look fantastic. Well done. Keep looking after yourself. Guys, we're going to be going through why your traumas are affecting your intimate relationships, ruining your intimate relationships. Now, guys, if you haven't already, please like the video. If you haven't already, it does help spread my content and my videos to more people. The algorithm really enjoys it, so it does help me. So if you haven't already, guys, hit that like button. I do love and appreciate you all so much. So I'll give you 3 seconds. 3, 2, 1. You've liked the video. I appreciate it. Thank you in advance. And let's rock and roll. Guys, what I am looking to do is I want to talk about this book right here. So the book is called The Body Keeps the Score. Mind, Brain, and Body in the Transformation of Trauma. It is a fantastic book that I would recommend reading. I'm only about a third of the way through it, so I'm up to page 108 at the time of this recording. But I've done a lot of research and I love it's a really interesting topic for me because it's obviously affected my my life in such a deep level. Trauma, mental and emotional challenges, anxiety, depression, suicide. It's been such a relevant, prevalent issue for my life, and it's something I'm really passionate about. So there's another book behind me on my shelf. If you guys haven't read it, it's called You're Not Broken by Dr. Sarah Woodhouse. Another fantastic book. But I just wanted to share because there's been a lot of light bulbs out of this book that's really clicked for me. And I find when I teach it, it actually helps me learn it a little bit more. So I am winging this one a little bit. Normally I'm a little bit more thorough with this book, but with books before I talk about them, but I've got some really awesome takeaways that I want to share with you guys. And in the book, it's in the name of it, The Body Keeps the Score. And I talk about this a lot with your triggers are your gifts, because you might go through something and remember, there's one line that I always remember, which I got out of the other book called You're Not Broken by Sarah Woodhouse, Dr. Sarah Woodhouse, is that trauma is unprocessed memories. And if you just kind of underline that, bubble that, zoom in on that one, it's such a powerful sentence, because all trauma is unprocessed memories. So it's a memory that was painful or traumatic or hurtful, but it just hasn't been processed yet. And if you tie it into the book that I'm reading at the moment, The Body Keeps the Score, is that your body will remember it. And that's where you get triggered. That's where you get set off. That's where, it's really awesome. They have brain scans in the book, and it's really interesting to look into it. There's parts of the brain, and I'm still learning to remember the names of the brain that it refers to. There's the thalamus, the medial prefrontal cortex. There's the amygdala. There's other parts of the mind. But it was really interesting that the part of the mind that is responsible for thinking logically and remembering and processing, so kind of the more logical mind. So you got the emotional part of the brain, and you've got the logical, critical thinking, analyzing part of the brain. When triggered, so when you're taken into a trauma, so a trauma, for example, you might have been in a car crash, and they use literally some insane stories of people that go through a car crash. There's an example, a couple that they use in that book, where they both go through this car crash, and then they do MRI scans on their mind, and they reactivate the trauma. And what they mean by that is they trigger that trauma experience, where they will read out things to trigger that experience in the person's mind. And what was really interesting is when you are triggered, the logical part of your mind literally switches off. And I find that really interesting. And you obviously, if you apply that to your own life and what you've noticed through life, it will make a lot of sense to you. So when you're triggered, the part of the mind that's responsible for thinking, analyzing, thinking logically, making calm, precise decisions, it's literally not working. It's not alive. It's not activated. It's inactive. So when you're taken into your wounds, that's when you regress back. So say again, you go through a car crash, and then you're driving, or one day or something happens, and it reminds you of that car crash. You become, and you revert back to who you were in that incident. And and even though you may logically know that it's not actually happening, it's just a trigger, you're just remembering the situation, your logical mind's not fucking working. It's literally switched off. So your emotional fight or flight, amygdala, it's called the reptilian brain, is literally on fight or flight, and it's reenacting the exact same experience of when you went through that traumatic event now. And that is fucking interesting. And I guess the reason why I'm sharing this with you guys is the way to process it. And there's many different ways to process trauma. You can do it a lot more analytically. That's a process I like doing. And there's a step-by-step process you can go through to do that. A lot of it's through feeling, like expressing those emotions. There's people, like a lot of people store their traumas and their tense emotions and their unprocessed emotions in their bodies. So when people have like full body massages, for example, it can be very therapeutic for them because it's literally all that tension and unprocessed shit that's stored in their bodies. So there's stories of people having massages and literally breaking down into tears, not from the pain of the massage, from the processing of that trauma that's literally kept inside their body. There's things like Reiki. If you've heard of Reiki, it's like energetic healings. There's things like breath work and visualization. There's so many different modalities to heal. But I guess the reason I jumped on this podcast and I wanted to share this with you guys is that if you've got trauma, which we all do, no one's ever fully healed, because again, trauma, a great line that I got from Peter Crone, which I really love, is anything with the absence of love is abuse. Listen to what I just said. Anything with the absence, if I'm looking for it, the lack of love, where love is not there, that is abuse. So if you've been through painful moments where you weren't loved, where you had a lot of volatility with emotions in your household growing up, from mum, from dad, from siblings, from whatever the upbringing was, there's probably unhealed or unprocessed trauma in there. And the thing is, and I believe I got this from the book behind me as well, is you may have things called buried traumas where you can't actually fucking remember. You can't remember the thing that you went through, but like this book, like the name of this book, the body keeps the score. The body won't forget. So you're still going to get triggered even if you can't remember what it's coming from. And you will continue to be triggered by things to give you the awareness of where you can heal through it. So I guess the takeaway that I'd love for you guys to maybe get out of this podcast, I'm literally freestyling this. I normally have a page of notes. I'm just freestyling this one for today, is be conscious of when you're triggered. So be conscious when you get agitated, when you get angry, when you disassociate, when you freeze, when you get angry, when you snap, when you get anxious. We all have our different traumatic reactions. So there's trauma, traumatic reactions, and triggers. So be conscious of what your reactions are. Be conscious of what triggers you. What is it specifically that triggered me? And starting to put awareness on it, whether it's through journaling, that's another way you can process shit. Journaling, putting awareness on it. And having been seen by someone, that's where therapy, that's where coaches, that's where mentors, that's where close loved ones are so important in someone's life, because a lot of healing comes from being seen and loved unconditionally for the real, authentic, vulnerable version of you. Because a lot of people go through life with a lot of shame around what they've been through, or shame that they haven't let go of that yet. They haven't healed through that yet. But that's the whole point of the healing journey, is that we all have parts of ourselves that we haven't healed through yet. We have parts of ourselves that we're still learning to love. We all have parts of ourselves that we're still learning to process. So my big takeaways, and I'll finish now because I've been kind of rambling on a little bit here, but be conscious of when you're triggered, because your body keeps the score. Even if you can't remember it, you will still get triggered if the wound is there, if the trauma is there, and we all have them. So be conscious of it. Start to put awareness onto it, whether it's journaling, whether it's meditation, whether it's visualization, whether it's breath work, whether it's getting a coach, whether it's getting a therapist, whether it's getting a mentor, whether it's doing psychedelics. There's been an incredible amount of research around psychedelic therapy. It's insane. Look into it. It is fucking interesting stuff. I'm a big subscriber to that. But all your trauma is, and I guess the point that I did leave out of this podcast so far, is a reason that it's ruining your relationships is when you're triggered in a relationship, and where you will get triggered the most is in an intimate relationship. And why is that? Some people ask, is because they get to know you the most. Your life partner, whoever's in your intimate relationship, will get to know you more than anyone else. They will get to know you in all ways, shapes, and forms. They will see parts of you that no one else will ever see. But because of that beautiful part of a relationship, is they're going to trigger you the most. That's why you have arguments, why you have disagreements. That's why you guys set each other off. That's part of an intimate relationship. That's how it works. But then being able to then put consciousness on it, hold space for each other to heal through it, that's where I really feel the most amount of power comes from in relationships, is when both people, or you might have multiple people in your relationship, depending on the structure of it, when people in the relationship understand that people are going to get triggered, and when you're triggered, it's showing you a part of you that you haven't healed through yet. And then by both being able to have the ability to hold space for each other, to love each other unconditionally for the messy, emotional, teary, whatever version of yourself is coming through, that's when a lot of the true healing work can be done. So the reasons your traumas are affecting your relationships or ruining them is because when you're set off, you're literally, the logical part of your mind is gone. And that's why you're emotional. That's why you get angry. That's why you go up. That's why it happens. But being able to be conscious of that, be seen and loved unconditionally with no judgment towards that, and start to process that, that's how you heal. And like most broken bones, not all bones are like this, but most broken bones, when they heal back stronger. So once you heal your pain, it gives you purpose. The greater the pain, the greater the purpose. Look at most successful people. They've been through a lot of painful things. Once healed and once processed, drives them to give back to the world. Look at a Tony Robbins. Four or five different fathers. His mother was addicted to pain medications. She used to smash his head up against the wall when she thought he was lying. He used to pour liquid soap down his throat when she thought he was lying as well. They had no food to eat for Thanksgiving, and one day a stranger gave them the gift of food, and that experience drove him to give back to the world. And he's fed millions and hundreds of millions of people to this day, and he's impacted the world on a scale that not many people will ever reach. And he's an inspiration to me. But it's like that pain gave him purpose. So I'm going to leave it there, guys. I hope you got some value from this. If you did, if you haven't already, liked the video, I really do appreciate it. Thank you for listening. Share this with a friend. And I love you guys. I'll see you on the next video. Peace.